Welcome to A Sleepy Facts. There are no visuals here, only calm words and quiet sounds. Let the darkness help your mind settle. Take a slow breath and allow yourself to drift. The forest begins its transformation as the sun descends toward the horizon. The change is gradual, almost imperceptible at first. The quality of light shifts from the harsh brightness of afternoon to something softer, more golden. Sunlight that has traveled straight down through the atmosphere now arrives at a slant, passing through more air, scattering more blue light away, and leaving behind the warm tones of orange and amber. The forest floor, which may have been dappled with harsh spots of sunlight and deep shadow during midday, now glows with an even gentle illumination that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Birds sense the approaching dusk. Their behavior changes in subtle ways that mark the transition between day and night. Diurnal birds, those that are active during daylight hours, begin to wind down their activities. They have spent the day foraging, defending territories, caring for young, and now they prepare for rest. Songbirds that filled the forest with chorus at dawn grow quieter, though not silent. Their evening songs are different from their morning songs. Softer, more sporadic, lacking the urgency of territorial declaration. These are settling songs, comfort songs, the avian equivalent of a lullaby. Each bird seeks its roosting spot, a particular branch, a cavity in a tree, a dense thicket that offers protection from predators and shelter from the elements. The air itself changes as evening approaches. During the day, the sun has heated the forest floor, the leaves, the bark of trees. This heat has driven convection, creating rising currents of warm air that stirred the canopy and mixed the atmosphere. Now, as the sun weakens, this heating diminishes. The convection slows and then stops. The air begins to settle, to stratify into layers of different temperature. The warmest air rises to the top of the canopy and slowly dissipates. Cooler air sinks to the forest floor, pooling in the low places, creating temperature gradients that will shape the forest's nocturnal atmosphere. The wind, if there was any, often dies down in the evening. The leaves that rustled and whispered all day grow still. A hush descends over the forest, a quietness that is not quite silence, but rather a different kind of sound, softer, more intimate, filled with small noises rather than large ones. As the light continues to fade, shadows deepen and merge. The distinct patches of sun and shade that characterize the daytime forest blur together into a more uniform dimness. Colors begin to fade. The human eye has two types of light-sensitive cells: cones that detect color in bright light, and rods that detect light and dark in dim conditions. As the forest darkens, our vision shifts from cone-dominated to rod-dominated. We lose the ability to see colors clearly. The greens of leaves, the browns of bark, the occasional bright flower, all of these fade to shades of gray. This is the beginning of the scotopic vision that will dominate our perception through the night. The world becomes monochromatic, reduced to luminance without hue, to patterns of light and dark without the rich palette of daytime. But for many forest creatures, this fading of light is not a loss, but an opportunity. As the diurnal animals settle down to rest, the nocturnal animals begin to stir. In hollow trees and underground burrows, in rock crevices and leaf litter, animals that have spent the day sleeping begin to wake. Their internal clocks, synchronized to the day-night cycle by light and temperature cues, trigger the physiological changes that prepare them for activity. Body temperature rises slightly. Metabolism increases. Senses sharpen. These nocturnal animals are adapted to life in darkness with enhanced night vision, acute hearing, sensitive whiskers or antennae. For them, the coming night is not a time of rest, but a time of hunting, foraging, traveling, mating. The forest at night is their domain, and they emerge into it with the confidence of creatures in their element. The transition from day to night is not instantaneous. There is a period called twilight, lasting perhaps an hour or more, depending on latitude and time of year, when the sun has set, but the sky still holds light. During civil twilight, the brightest stars begin to appear, and there is enough light to see clearly without artificial illumination. During nautical twilight, the horizon is still visible, and more stars emerge. During astronomical twilight, the sun is far enough below the horizon that its light no longer brightens the sky, but a faint glow may still be present. Only after astronomical twilight ends is the night truly dark, the sky black except for starlight and perhaps moonlight. The forest responds to each phase of twilight differently, with different animals emerging at different light levels, each species adapted to a particular niche in the gradient from day to night. Deer and other large mammals often move during twilight, taking advantage of the dim light to see while being less visible to predators or human observers. This is the time when deer emerge from the forest's interior to feed in meadows and clearings, when they move between bedding areas and food sources. Crepuscular animals, those active at dawn and dusk, are in their element now. Rabbits venture out from their burrows. Bats begin to emerge from their roosts, testing the air, preparing for their nightly hunt for insects. Owls, which have been roosting quietly all day, open their eyes and begin to survey their territories, listening for the first sounds of potential prey stirring in the darkness. The soundscape of the forest shifts during twilight. The daytime chorus of songbirds fades, replaced by new voices. Crickets and katydids begin their rhythmic chirping, a sound that will continue throughout the night. Frogs, if there is water nearby, start their evening chorus, a complex symphony of croaks, peeps, and trills, each species contributing its own distinctive voice. These are mating calls, males advertising their presence to females, competing with each other for attention. The volume can be surprising. A pond full of calling frogs can produce sound levels that make conversation difficult. But to the human ear, especially at a distance, the sound is often soothing, a natural white noise that blends with the rustle of leaves and the whisper of wind. As full darkness finally arrives, the forest completes its transformation. The world of sunlight and photosynthesis gives way to a world of starlight and respiration. Plants, which spent the day converting carbon dioxide and water into sugar and oxygen, now switch to nighttime mode. Photosynthesis stops without sunlight. Respiration continues, plants breathing in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide, just as animals do. The balance of gases in the forest air shifts slightly. The forest floor, which was a source of oxygen during the day, becomes a net consumer. The chemistry of the forest atmosphere adjusts to this new equilibrium, a rhythm as old as life itself, repeated every day and every night since plants first colonized the land hundreds of millions of years ago. The night has arrived. The forest is awake, but in a different way than during the day. It is quieter in some ways, louder in others. It is darker to human eyes, but to the eyes of nocturnal animals, it is perfectly visible. It is a time of hunting and being hunted, of foraging and hiding, of movements unseen by human observers, but no less real for being invisible. The forest at night is alive with activity, filled with creatures going about their business in the darkness, following patterns of behavior shaped by millions of years of evolution. To understand the night forest is to understand a world that exists parallel to our own, a world that unfolds while most humans sleep, a world as rich and complex as the daytime forest, but hidden from us by our diurnal nature. Let us enter this world, this realm of darkness and whispers, and discover what happens in the forest when the sun goes down. The forest floor at night is a different world from the forest floor by day. During daylight hours, the ground beneath the trees is often visible, if shadowed. You can see the leaf litter, the fallen branches, the mushrooms and ferns. You can watch where you step, navigate around obstacles, observe the small details of the microhabitat. At night, all of this becomes much more difficult. To human eyes adapted to daylight, the forest floor in darkness is almost invisible, a black void where you must feel your way forward, where every step is uncertain. But this is only because we are not adapted to nocturnal life. For the creatures that make the forest floor their home at night, it is not a void but a familiar landscape, full of landmarks and pathways, rich with opportunities and dangers. The leaf litter, that layer of fallen leaves, twigs, and organic debris that carpets the forest floor, is a habitat unto itself. During the day, it appears static, lifeless, except for the occasional beetle or spider. At night, it comes alive with activity. Countless invertebrates emerge from hiding places to forage, to hunt, to seek mates. These creatures are tiny, often only millimeters long, but they are numerous beyond counting. Every handful of leaf litter contains hundreds or thousands of individual animals. Mites, springtails, beetles, centipedes, millipedes, insect larvae, spiders, pseudoscorpions, and many others. They live out their entire lives in this layer, rarely, if ever, venturing above it or below it, occupying a microhabitat that exists in the narrow zone between the soil and the air. Many of these invertebrates are detritivores, animals that feed on dead organic matter. They consume fallen leaves, breaking them down into smaller fragments, digesting the nutrients, and excreting the rest. This process is essential to the forest ecosystem. Without detritivores, fallen leaves would accumulate year after year, piling up in ever deeper layers, locking away nutrients in dead plant tissue. The detritivores prevent this by recycling the nutrients, converting the complex molecules in dead leaves into simpler forms that can be absorbed by plant roots. They are the forest's decomposers, working constantly to break down the dead and return it to the living. At night, their activity intensifies. Protected by darkness from predators that hunt by sight, they emerge to feed, to move, to go about the business of decomposition. Fungi also play a crucial role in decomposition, and while fungi are not animals and do not move, they are in some sense more active at night than during the day. Fungal hyphae, the thin thread-like structures that make up the body of a fungus, grow continuously, extending through the soil and leaf litter, secreting enzymes that break down organic matter, absorbing the released nutrients. This growth is not limited to nighttime, but it is favored by the cooler, moister conditions that often prevail after dark. During the day, especially in summer, the surface of the leaf litter can become hot and dry, conditions that stress fungi. At night, temperatures drop and humidity rises, and fungal growth accelerates. The forest floor is threaded with an invisible network of fungal hyphae, connecting trees, decomposing logs, and soil in a web of nutrient exchange and chemical communication. This network, sometimes called the Wood Wide Web, is most active in the dark hours when conditions are optimal for fungal metabolism. Predators stalk the leaf litter at night as well. Spiders are perhaps the most numerous and diverse of these predators. Some spiders build webs to catch prey, delicate constructions of silk, stretched between twigs or across gaps in the vegetation, sticky spirals designed to entrap flying insects. These webs are often built in the evening and checked throughout the night. Other spiders are active hunters, prowling the leaf litter in search of prey, using their sensitive legs to detect vibrations, their multiple eyes to perceive movement. Wolf spiders are particularly common in the leaf litter, large and fast-moving hunters that chase down their prey rather than waiting for it to come to them. At night, with a flashlight, you can sometimes see the eye shine of wolf spiders. The reflection of light off the tapetum, a reflective layer behind the retina that enhances their night vision. Dozens of tiny points of light gleam back at you from the forest floor, each one a spider, each one hunting. Centipedes are another important predator of the leaf litter. These elongated arthropods, with their many legs and their quick, sinuous movements, are formidable hunters of smaller invertebrates. They are venomous, using modified front legs called forcipules to inject poison into their prey, paralyzing it quickly. Centipedes are mostly nocturnal, hiding under bark or in crevices during the day and emerging at night to hunt. They move rapidly through the leaf litter, their bodies flexible enough to navigate the complex three-dimensional maze of twigs and leaves, their antennae constantly probing for chemical cues that might indicate prey. When they detect a potential meal, a beetle perhaps, or a springtail, they strike with startling speed, grabbing the prey with their forcipules and delivering venom. The prey struggles briefly and then goes still. The centipede feeds and then moves on, continuing its hunt. Salamanders and other amphibians are also active on the forest floor at night, especially in moist forests or after rain. These small creatures, most only a few inches long, are sensitive to desiccation and avoid the drying heat of day. At night, when humidity is higher and temperatures are cooler, they emerge to feed. Salamanders are predators of invertebrates, using their sticky tongues to capture prey or simply snapping up small creatures with their jaws. They move slowly and deliberately through the leaf litter, turning over leaves, investigating crevices, searching for food. Their skins are moist and permeable, allowing them to breathe through their skin as well as their lungs, but also making them vulnerable to dehydration. The night forest, with its damp air and dew-covered surfaces, provides the conditions they need to survive. Moisture is indeed a key feature of the forest floor at night. As temperatures drop after sunset, the air's capacity to hold water vapor decreases. If the air was humid during the day, it may reach saturation at night, and the excess moisture condenses as dew. Leaves, twigs, bark, all surfaces become coated with tiny droplets of water. This dew provides drinking water for many small animals that have no other source. It also maintains humidity, preventing the leaf litter from drying out, keeping the environment favorable for animals and fungi that require moisture. On clear, calm nights, dew formation can be substantial, enough to drip from leaves and create a soft, pattering sound, like gentle rain. This is one of the characteristic sounds of the night forest. The sound of dew dripping, of moisture settling, of water returning to the earth. The temperature of the forest floor at night is cooler than during the day, but not uniformly so. In low-lying areas, cold air pools, creating frost pockets that can be several degrees cooler than the surrounding forest. On slopes, cold air drains downhill, creating temperature gradients. These temperature variations affect where animals choose to be active. Cold-blooded animals, like insects and spiders, are sluggish when cold and more active when warm, so they may concentrate in areas that retain more heat, near rocks that absorb sunlight during the day, or under protective cover that insulates them from the coldest air. Warm-blooded animals are less affected by these temperature variations, but they still respond to them, seeking shelter when conditions are coldest, emerging when the air is milder. The forest floor at night is also a place of sounds, not loud sounds generally, but soft ones. The rustle of a mouse moving through leaves, the snap of a twig under a deer's hoof, the scritch-scratch of a beetle's legs on bark. These sounds are often swallowed by the forest's acoustic dampening. The leaves and branches and soil all absorb sound, preventing echoes, creating an environment where noises are muffled and localized. This makes it difficult for predators to locate prey by sound alone, but also makes it difficult for prey to hear approaching danger. The result is a landscape where vision, smell, and touch are often more important than hearing, where creatures move quietly through a world of whispers and soft stirrings. In the darkness of the forest floor, life continues with the same intensity as during the day, just with different actors. The detritivores munch on leaves, the fungi extend their hyphae, the predators hunt, the prey hide and flee, and occasionally fall victim. Energy flows through the food web, from dead plant matter to detritivores to predators, from fungi to the trees they nourish. Nutrients cycle from soil to plants to leaf litter and back to soil. The forest floor at night is a place of constant activity, a realm of the small and the hidden, a world that exists beneath our notice, but without which the forest could not function. It is the foundation of the forest ecosystem, the layer where decomposition happens, where nutrients are recycled, where countless creatures live out their brief lives in the darkness and the damp. high above the forest floor, the canopy exists in a different realm. This is the layer of leaves and branches that forms the roof of the forest, the interface between the forest interior and the open sky. During the day, the canopy is where photosynthesis happens, where sunlight is captured and converted to chemical energy, where the forest produces the oxygen that all animals breathe. At night, the canopy serves different functions. It becomes a highway for animals that travel through the trees, a hunting ground for aerial predators, a shelter that moderates temperature and humidity below, a stage for the subtle dramas of nocturnal life. The canopy at night is quieter than during the day in some ways, louder in others. The songbirds that filled it with sound at dawn are now asleep, tucked into roosting spots, their heads under their wings, their metabolisms slow to conserve energy through the night. But other sounds replace the birdsong. Insects, vast numbers of insects, fill the canopy with their calls. Moths flutter silently through the leaves, seeking flowers to pollinate or mates to find. Katydids produce their rhythmic calls, each species with its own distinctive pattern. Cicadas, in some forests, buzz from the branches. These insect sounds blend into a continuous background hum, a sonic texture that defines the night forest as much as birdsong defines the dawn. Bats are the most conspicuous nocturnal animals of the canopy, at least to human observers aware enough to notice them. Bats are the night shift of aerial insect control, filling the niche that swallows and swifts occupied during the day. They emerge from their roosts in caves or hollow trees or buildings at dusk and scatter across the landscape to feed. In the forest, bats hunt among the trees, navigating through branches with astonishing agility, catching insects in flight. They use echolocation to navigate and hunt, emitting high-frequency calls and listening to the echoes that bounce back from objects in their path. These calls are mostly ultrasonic, too high for human ears to detect without special equipment, but they fill the night air nonetheless, a constant stream of sound pulses mapping the world in acoustic detail. The echolocation calls of bats vary by species and by context. Some bats produce loud calls that can detect insects from far away, but are also easier for the insects to hear and avoid. Others use quieter calls that provide less range but more stealth. Some bats hunt in the open air above the canopy, where they can use long-range echolocation and fast flight to catch prey. Others hunt within the canopy, weaving between branches using short-range echolocation and precise maneuvering to snatch insects from leaves or even from spider webs. Watching bats hunt in the canopy, if you can see them in the darkness, is to witness flight of extraordinary skill. They dart and turn, accelerate and brake, change direction in an instant, all while avoiding collisions with branches and leaves. It is a three-dimensional ballet, performed at high speed in near total darkness, guided by senses we cannot directly perceive. The insects that bats hunt are not passive victims. Many have evolved defenses against bat predation. Some moths have ears tuned to the ultrasonic frequencies of bat calls, allowing them to hear an approaching bat and take evasive action, diving, spiraling, or simply folding their wings and dropping toward the ground. Some moths can even produce ultrasonic clicks of their own, which may jam the bat's echolocation or signal that the moth is distasteful. The evolutionary arms race between bats and insects has been ongoing for millions of years, driving the development of increasingly sophisticated hunting strategies and increasingly clever defenses. At night in the canopy, this ancient conflict plays out millions of times, bats hunting, insects fleeing, each employing strategies refined by natural selection. Other mammals also travel through the canopy at night, though they are generally less visible than bats. Flying squirrels, where they occur, are strictly nocturnal. These remarkable animals glide from tree to tree, using membranes of skin stretched between their front and back legs. They cannot truly fly. They have no way to gain altitude, but they can glide for remarkable distances, sometimes 100 feet or more, steering with their tail and limbs, landing on a tree trunk, and then climbing up to launch another glide. Flying squirrels feed on nuts, seeds, fungi, and sometimes insects, and they travel widely through the forest at night, visiting multiple trees in a single evening. They are social animals, often nesting in groups, and they communicate with high-pitched chirps and ultrasonic calls that are reminiscent of bat echolocation, but serve different purposes. Social coordination rather than navigation. Tree frogs in tropical and subtropical forests live in the canopy and are most active at night. These small amphibians have adhesive toe pads that allow them to cling to leaves and bark, even on vertical surfaces. They hunt insects in the canopy, sitting motionless on a leaf until prey comes within range, then snapping it up with a quick extension of their sticky tongue. Male tree frogs call at night to attract females, and their calls can be loud and persistent, carrying through the forest. Each species has a distinctive call, and experienced observers can identify tree frogs by sound alone, just as birders identify birds by song. The chorus of tree frogs is one of the defining sounds of tropical nights, a cacophony that can be overwhelming in its volume and complexity, but which serves the essential purpose of bringing males and females together for reproduction. The canopy also hosts predators larger than bats. Owls perch in the upper branches, silent and watchful, their large eyes gathering every available photon of light, their asymmetrical ears pinpointing the location of sounds with extraordinary precision. Owls are the supreme nocturnal hunters of the forest, capable of catching prey in conditions that would render other predators helpless. Their flight is almost silent, thanks to specialized feather structures that break up turbulence and muffle the sound of air rushing over their wings. This silence allows them to approach prey without warning, striking before the victim is aware of danger. Owls hunt a variety of prey: mice, voles, shrews, small birds, large insects, even fish from forest streams. They swallow their prey whole or in large pieces, later regurgitating pellets of indigestible fur and bone. The hunting behavior of owls is methodical and patient. An owl may perch for long periods, scanning the ground below, listening for the faint sounds of a mouse moving through leaf litter or a vole rustling grass. When prey is detected, the owl launches from its perch, gliding silently down, extending its talons at the last moment to strike. The impact is usually fatal, The owl's talons are powerful and sharp, and the prey is often killed instantly. The owl then carries its catch back to a perch to feed, or to a nest if it has young to provision. This pattern repeats throughout the night, the owl hunting intermittently, resting between hunts, gradually filling its stomach with prey. Wind affects the canopy at night differently than during the day. During daylight hours, convection driven by solar heating creates turbulent air that stirs the canopy, making leaves flutter and branches sway. At night, with less convection, the wind is often steadier and gentler. If there is a breeze, it flows through the canopy in a more laminar way, creating a soft rushing sound as air moves through leaves. This sound is one of the most soothing aspects of the night forest. The whisper of wind in trees, a sound that has lulled humans to sleep for all of our existence as a species. On calm nights, the canopy can be almost perfectly still, the leaves hanging motionless, the air undisturbed. These calm nights are favored by many nocturnal animals because the lack of wind makes it easier to hear, easier to smell, easier to detect prey or avoid predators. Temperature in the canopy at night tends to be slightly warmer than on the forest floor, especially on clear, calm nights. This is because cold air is denser and sinks, pooling at ground level, while warmer air remains aloft. The canopy also provides insulation, trapping some of the heat that radiates upward from the forest floor and preventing it from escaping to the open sky. This creates a temperature inversion, cooler below, warmer above. That is the opposite of the daytime pattern. Animals that are sensitive to cold may seek higher positions in the canopy at night to take advantage of these slightly warmer conditions, while cold-tolerant species may descend to the forest floor where temperatures are lowest. The canopy at night is a place of transit and transformation. It is where bats commute between roost and hunting grounds, where flying squirrels glide from tree to tree, where insects migrate through the forest, where pollen and seeds are sometimes dispersed by nocturnal pollinators. It is a layer of connection, linking different parts of the forest, facilitating movement and interaction. And it is a filter, moderating the environment below, softening the impact of wind and rain, trapping humidity, buffering temperature extremes. The canopy at night is not separate from the forest floor below or the sky above. It is a zone of transition, a realm where earth and air meet, where the life of the forest rises up to meet the cosmos overhead. The night forest is a place of predation. With darkness comes a shift in the balance of power between predator and prey. During the day, many prey animals rely on vision to detect predators and escape. At night, this advantage diminishes or disappears. Predators adapted to nocturnal hunting gain the upper hand, using senses other than sight, hearing, smell, touch, to locate and capture prey. The result is a nocturnal arms race, where prey evolve better ways to hide or escape, and predators evolve better ways to find and catch them. Owls, as mentioned, are master nocturnal hunters, but they are not the only ones. Foxes prowl the forest at night, following trails and game paths, pausing frequently to listen and sniff the air. A fox's hearing is acute enough to detect a mouse moving under a layer of snow and its pounce, leaping high and diving down to pin the prey with its front paws, is a hunting technique refined to near perfection. Foxes are omnivores, eating whatever is available: small mammals, birds, insects, fruits, carrion. But they are skilled hunters when the opportunity arises. At night, they move through the forest with a kind of casual confidence, aware of their surroundings, alert to opportunity, but not frantic or hurried. They are creatures of habit, often following the same routes night after night, visiting the same scent-marking posts, checking the same locations where prey might be found. Bobcats and other small wild cats are also nocturnal hunters in some forests. These solitary predators are stealthy and patient, stalking prey with slow, deliberate movements, freezing when the prey looks in their direction, advancing when it looks away. They rely heavily on hearing and smell to locate prey, but they also have excellent low-light vision, with eyes that gather light efficiently and a tapetum that reflects light back through the retina for a second chance at detection. When close enough, a bobcat launches a short, explosive charge, covering the final distance in a few bounds, striking with claws and teeth. The attack is usually decisive. The prey is either caught in the first rush or it escapes, and the bobcat rarely pursues for long distances. Energy conservation is important, and a long chase is often not worth the calories expended. Snakes in warmer climates are nocturnal hunters of great skill. Many species of snakes are most active at night when their prey, rodents, frogs, birds, are also active or roosting and vulnerable. Some snakes hunt by ambush, coiling in a likely spot and waiting for prey to come within striking range. Others actively search, tongue-flicking constantly to sample the air for chemical cues, following scent trails until they locate prey. Venomous snakes use their venom to subdue prey quickly, injecting it with a bite and then waiting for the venom to take effect. Non-venomous snakes rely on constriction, wrapping coils around the prey and squeezing until it suffocates. Both strategies are effective, and snakes are significant predators in many forest ecosystems, though they are often overlooked because of their secretive nature. The most numerous nocturnal hunters in the forest are probably spiders. There are thousands of species of spiders in a typical forest, and many are most active at night. Web-building spiders construct their snares in strategic locations, across trails, between branches, in clearings where flying insects are likely to pass. The webs are marvels of engineering, built from silk that is stronger than steel by weight and more elastic than rubber. When an insect flies into the web, it becomes entangled in the sticky threads. The vibrations of its struggles alert the spider, which rushes out from its hiding place, wraps the prey in more silk to immobilize it, and delivers a venomous bite. The venom not only kills the prey, but also begins to digest it externally, liquefying the internal tissues so the spider can suck them out. By morning, the prey is reduced to an empty husk, and the spider has gained the nutrition it needs to survive another day. Hunting spiders, those that do not build webs, also thrive at night. These are the wolf spiders, the jumping spiders that hunt in darkness, the large wandering spiders that patrol the forest floor and the understory. They detect prey primarily through vibration and touch. Using their sensitive legs to feel the movements of potential meals. When prey is detected, the spider approaches, moving carefully to avoid alerting the prey, and then strikes with a quick bite. The venom acts rapidly, and the spider feeds. These spiders are everywhere in the night forest, hidden in the leaf litter, lurking under bark, clinging to the underside of leaves. They are part of the forest's invisible infrastructure, a vast and largely unseen network of predators keeping insect populations in check. Predatory insects themselves are active at night. Mantises, those remarkable insects that hold their front legs folded as if in prayer, hunt by ambush. They perch on vegetation, perfectly camouflaged, waiting for prey to come close. Their compound eyes are large and capable of detecting motion in low light. When prey, a moth, perhaps, or a beetle, comes within range, the mantis strikes with lightning speed, its front legs unfolding and snapping shut around the victim. The strike is so fast, it is nearly invisible, lasting only a few hundredths of a second. The mantis then feeds, using powerful jaws to chew through the exoskeleton and consume the soft tissues within. Ground beetles are another group of nocturnal insect predators. These beetles are fast-moving hunters that chase down prey on the forest floor. They are equipped with strong mandibles for grabbing and chewing, and they are voracious consumers of other insects, earthworms, slugs, and snails. Some ground beetles specialize in hunting specific prey. There are species that feed almost exclusively on caterpillars, others that prefer snails. They hunt by scent and by randomly searching the ground, turning over leaves, investigating crevices, covering a lot of ground in a night's hunting. When they encounter prey, they subdue it quickly with their mandibles and feed. The presence of all these predators means that the night forest is a dangerous place for prey animals. Mice and voles must be constantly alert, aware that owls may strike from above, foxes may appear from downwind, snakes may be coiled in their path. Insects face spiders, beetles, and centipedes at every turn. Even predators are not safe. A small owl might be taken by a larger owl. A spider might be eaten by a centipede. A fox might occasionally fall victim to a larger predator, like a coyote or wolf. The food web is complex and interconnected, with energy flowing from plants to herbivores, to predators, to top predators, and with scavengers and decomposers cleaning up the remains and recycling nutrients back into the system. Despite all this predation, prey populations generally remain stable. This is because reproduction balances mortality. Prey species typically have high reproductive rates, producing many offspring, most of which will be eaten, but a few of which will survive to reproduce. Predators have lower reproductive rates, but higher survival, and their populations are limited by the availability of prey. This creates a dynamic equilibrium where predator and prey populations fluctuate, but generally remain within bounds. The night forest is a stage where this ancient drama plays out, where predators hunt and prey hide, where life feeds on life, where the cycle of birth and death and decay continues in the darkness, unseen by most humans, but no less real for being hidden. Between the forest floor and the canopy lies the understory, the layer of shrubs, small trees, and vegetation that exists in the shade of the larger trees above. During the day, the understory is often dim, receiving only filtered sunlight, but it is alive with birds, insects, and other creatures adapted to this mid-level environment. At night, the understory transforms into a realm of deep shadows and hidden movements, a place where many animals find refuge and others find hunting grounds. The understory is structurally complex, filled with vertical elements like tree trunks and horizontal elements like branches, creating a three-dimensional maze that provides countless hiding spots and travel routes. This complexity is advantageous for small animals seeking to avoid predators, as it offers many places to hide and many pathways for escape. A mouse fleeing an owl can dart into dense shrubbery where the owl cannot easily follow. A small bird roosting for the night can choose a spot deep within a tangle of branches where it is protected from above and below. The understory is a refuge, a layer of protection that moderates the dangers of the night forest. Ferns and mosses are common in the understory, especially in moist forests. These plants do not flower, reproducing instead by spores, and they are well adapted to the low light conditions beneath the canopy. At night, they are dormant, their photosynthesis halted, but they remain important components of the forest structure. Ferns provide cover for small animals. Mosses retain moisture, creating humid microhabitats that salamanders and invertebrates favor. The presence of these plants shapes the night forest, influencing where animals choose to move and rest. Young trees, saplings, and seedlings also occupy the understory, waiting for a gap in the canopy above where they can grow rapidly toward the light. Most of these young trees will never reach the canopy, being shaded out by larger trees or eaten by herbivores or succumbing to disease. But a few will survive and grow, and when a large tree falls and creates a gap, one of these saplings may fill it, becoming part of the canopy. This process of gap dynamics drives much of the forest's long-term structure and diversity. At night, these young trees are passive participants in the forest's life, growing slowly, storing resources, preparing for the opportunity that may or may not come. Insects are abundant in the understory at night, filling niches that range from herbivore to predator to parasite. Moths are particularly diverse and numerous, with thousands of species in a typical forest, each adapted to a particular food plant or ecological niche. Many moths are active only at night, spending the day hidden under bark or among leaves, and emerging after dark to feed or mate. Some moths feed on nectar, visiting flowers that bloom at night and are often pale or white to be visible in darkness. These night-blooming flowers are frequently fragrant, producing scents that help moths locate them. The relationship between night-blooming flowers and nocturnal pollinators is ancient and mutually beneficial. The flowers gain pollination, and the moths gain food. Other moths do not feed as adults, having no functioning mouthparts. These moths emerged from their cocoons with all the energy they will ever have, stored as fat in their bodies. They live only a few days or weeks, just long enough to find a mate and reproduce. The adults do not eat, but their caterpillars, the larval stage, are voracious feeders, consuming leaves and growing rapidly. Many caterpillars are also nocturnal, feeding at night when they are less visible to predators and when the leaves are moist with dew and easier to chew. During the day, these caterpillars hide, often in curled leaves or in silk shelters they construct, emerging only after dark to feed. The understory is also home to many species of beetles. Some are wood borers, their larvae tunneling through dead or dying wood, consuming the cellulose with the help of symbiotic microorganisms in their guts. Others are predators, hunting smaller insects. Still others are herbivores, feeding on leaves or flowers or seeds. Beetles are perhaps the most diverse group of animals on Earth, with more species than any other order, and a large proportion of this diversity is found in forests. At night, beetles emerge from their hiding places and go about their business, some flying to new locations, others crawling through the vegetation, all contributing to the forest's intricate food web and nutrient cycles. Fireflies, which are actually beetles, not flies, are among the most charismatic insects of the night forest, at least in regions where they occur. On summer nights, fireflies fill the understory and the air above the forest floor with their bioluminescent flashes. Each species has a distinctive flash pattern, a code that allows males and females to recognize each other. Males fly through the air, flashing at intervals, while females perch on vegetation and respond with their own flashes if they are interested. When a male sees a responsive flash, he flies toward it, and if all goes well, the two insects mate. The light they produce is remarkably efficient. Nearly 100% of the energy goes into light rather than heat, a phenomenon called cold light. The chemistry involves a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase, which combine with oxygen to produce light. The purpose of the light is communication, but the effect is magical, transforming the night forest into a realm of floating sparks, a scene that has inspired wonder and poetry throughout human history. Spiders build their webs in the understory as well, stretching them between shrubs and small trees, across pathways and openings. These webs are architectural wonders, each one constructed fresh every night or every few nights as the old web becomes damaged or loses its stickiness. The spider begins with a framework of non-sticky support threads, then adds a spiral of sticky threads to trap prey. The entire process takes about an hour and requires the spider to produce silk from specialized glands in its abdomen, to measure distances with its legs, to create a structure that is strong, elastic, and precisely geometrical. When complete, the web is nearly invisible in darkness, a trap waiting for the unwary insect. The spider often sits in the center of the web or nearby on a signal line, waiting for vibrations that indicate prey has been caught. The understory at night is also a place of sounds. Soft, subtle sounds that require attention to notice. The rustle of a mouse moving through leaves, the flutter of a moth's wings, the faint creak of a branch bending under the weight of a landing owl, the almost imperceptible drip of dew falling from leaf to leaf. These sounds create an acoustic texture that is characteristic of the night forest, a soundscape very different from the bird chorus of dawn or the insect hum of midday. It is a quieter world, but not a silent one, and the sounds that do occur carry information about the weather, about the presence of animals, about the state of the forest itself. Humidity in the understory at night is typically high, often approaching saturation. The dense vegetation traps moisture, preventing it from dispersing into the air above. Dew forms readily, coating every surface. This high humidity is essential for many forest organisms, particularly amphibians and certain invertebrates that are prone to desiccation. The understory provides a humid refuge where these creatures can be active at night without the risk of drying out. The moisture also affects the forest's chemistry, promoting the activity of fungi and bacteria that decompose organic matter, facilitating nutrient cycling. The understory is a transitional zone, a layer that connects the forest floor to the canopy, that provides structure and habitat, that moderates conditions and creates microclimates. At night, it becomes a realm unto itself, filled with life that is active in the darkness, that follows rhythms set by evolution and ecology, that contributes to the forest's functioning in ways that are often invisible to casual observers. It is a secret world, hidden in plain sight, accessible to those who take the time to look, to listen, to notice the small dramas unfolding in the shadows between earth and sky. Water is essential to the forest, and its presence shapes the night in profound ways. Streams and ponds and wetlands within the forest are hubs of nocturnal activity, attracting animals to drink, to feed, to breed. The sound of water, whether the babble of a stream or the quiet lap of a pond, is a constant presence in forests that have water, a background texture that defines the acoustic environment. At night, this sound may be the most audible feature, especially on calm nights when other noises are muted. Streams flow continuously, day and night, carrying water from higher elevations to lower ones, draining the forest and transporting nutrients and sediment. The water in a forest stream is typically cold and well oxygenated, tumbling over rocks and logs, creating riffles and pools. These streams are habitats for fish, amphibians, invertebrates, and many other organisms. At night, the stream continues its flow, indifferent to the darkness, but the life within it responds to the night in various ways. Many aquatic insects are nocturnal or have nocturnal stages in their life cycle. Mayflies, for example, emerge from streams at dusk, molting from their aquatic nymph stage into winged adults. These adults live only a short time, sometimes just hours, during which they mate and lay eggs. The emergence happens at night or in the evening, possibly as a strategy to avoid predators that hunt by sight during the day. The newly emerged mayflies are vulnerable, with soft bodies and wings that must dry and harden before flight is possible. They cling to streamside vegetation, waiting for their wings to be ready, and then take to the air in swarms, dancing above the water, completing their reproductive mission before dying. Caddisflies are another group of aquatic insects that often emerge at night. As larvae, caddisflies live in streams, many species constructing elaborate cases from pebbles, twigs, or other materials glued together with silk. These cases protect the soft-bodied larvae and allow them to live in fast-flowing water without being swept away. When ready to metamorphose, the caddisfly larva seals itself inside its case and pupates. After a period of transformation, the adult emerges, swimming to the surface and flying away to mate. Many species do this at night, reducing their exposure to predators like birds and dragonflies that hunt flying insects during the day. Fish in forest streams are often more active at night than during the day. Trout and other species feed heavily in the evening and after dark, taking advantage of the insects emerging from the water and the darkness that conceals them from predators like herons and ospreys. The fish rise to the surface to sip emerging insects, creating rings on the water that spread and vanish. Anglers who fish at night know that this can be the most productive time, when fish are actively feeding and less wary than during the bright hours of day. Frogs and toads are strongly associated with water, and their activity peaks at night. Male frogs call from ponds and streams, producing the choruses that are so characteristic of warm nights in temperate and tropical forests. Each species has a distinctive call, and a single pond may host multiple species calling simultaneously, creating a complex polyphonic chorus. These calls serve to attract females and to establish territories among males. A male frog calling from a good spot, a place with optimal temperature, humidity, and access to egg-laying sites, is advertising his quality to potential mates. Females, listening from the water or nearby vegetation, approach males whose calls appeal to them, and mating ensues. The calls of frogs can be remarkably loud for such small animals. Some species produce calls that exceed 90 decibels, as loud as a lawnmower, and choruses of hundreds of frogs can be deafening. The energy investment in calling is substantial, and males can lose significant weight over the course of a breeding season from the effort. But the investment is necessary for reproductive success, and males that call louder or longer often attract more mates. The night forest rings with these calls, a testament to the power of sexual selection and the importance of reproduction. Salamanders, unlike frogs, are generally silent, but they are no less active around water at night. Aquatic salamanders patrol streams and ponds, hunting for invertebrates and small fish. Terrestrial salamanders may travel to streams to drink or to lay eggs. Some species have complex life cycles involving both aquatic and terrestrial stages, moving between land and water seasonally. At night, when the air is humid and the risk of desiccation is low, salamanders can move more freely through the forest, and they often converge on water sources where food is abundant and conditions are favorable. Mammals also come to water at night. Deer visit streams to drink, stepping carefully on the rocky banks, lowering their heads to the water, remaining alert for predators even as they drink. Raccoons forage along streams, turning over rocks to look for crayfish, catching small fish in shallow pools, washing their food in a behavior that is characteristic of the species, though its purpose is not entirely clear. Otters, in forests with rivers or large streams, are primarily nocturnal, hunting fish and amphibians, playing in the water with a joyfulness that seems almost human. Beavers, where they occur, are most active at night, working on their dams and lodges under cover of darkness. They cut trees with their powerful teeth, drag the logs to the water, and construct or repair the dams that create the ponds in which they live. Beaver ponds are important features of the forest ecosystem, creating habitat for fish, amphibians, waterfowl, and many other species. The ponds also slow the flow of water, reducing erosion and allowing sediment to settle, improving water quality downstream. At night, the sound of a beaver slapping its tail on the water, a warning signal to other beavers, is startling and distinctive, a sharp cracker that echoes through the forest. The edges of streams and ponds are especially productive areas at night, where terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems meet. These ecotones, transition zones between different habitats, support high biodiversity because they offer resources from both systems. Insects emerge from the water, providing food for spiders and other terrestrial predators. Terrestrial insects fall into the water, becoming food for fish. Nutrients wash from land into water, fertilizing aquatic plants. The ecotone is a zone of exchange and interaction, and at night, it buzzes and ripples with activity. Dew, as mentioned earlier, forms on cool nights when the air reaches saturation. In the forest, dew is a significant source of water for many animals that do not have access to streams or ponds. Insects drink from dew droplets on leaves. Birds sip dew in the morning. Even some mammals lick dew from vegetation. The formation of dew is a quiet process, nearly silent except for the occasional drip, but its effects are widespread. The forest at night becomes draped in moisture, every surface coated with tiny droplets that catch and reflect whatever light is available. Moonlight, starlight, the faint glow of bioluminescent fungi. Water in the night forest is more than just a resource. It is a shaper of life, a connector of organisms, a medium through which energy and nutrients flow. It supports entire communities of specialized creatures, creates habitats and microclimates, moderates temperature and humidity. The sound of water is a constant companion in many forests, a reminder that the forest is not static, but always changing, always flowing, always alive. At night, when other sounds diminish, the voice of water becomes more prominent, a soothing presence that speaks of continuity and renewal. Time in the night forest is measured differently than by human clocks. The hours are not marked by the hands of a watch, but by the shifting positions of stars, by the waxing and waning of moonlight, by the changing behavior of animals as the night progresses. Early evening, the time just after sunset, is a period of transition and high activity. This is when diurnal animals are settling down and nocturnal animals are waking up, when the two shifts change. The forest is often at its noisiest during this twilight hour, with insect choruses ramping up, birds giving their final calls, bats emerging, frogs beginning to vocalize. As full darkness descends, the forest often quiets slightly. The initial burst of evening activity subsides into a more sustained, lower-level rhythm. Nocturnal animals spread out from their roosts and burrows, beginning their nightly routines. Owls perch and watch. Foxes trot along trails. Moths flutter from flower to flower. The pace is less frenetic than at dusk, more deliberate. The night is long, and there is time to hunt, to feed, to travel. There is no need to rush. Midnight, if we can speak of such a specific time in a place where clocks are irrelevant, is often the quietest part of the night. The early surge of activity has passed. Many animals have fed and are resting, digesting, conserving energy. The temperature has dropped to its lowest point, and cold-blooded animals are less active. Even the insect choruses may diminish, though they do not cease. It is a time of deep quiet, when the forest seems to hold its breath, when the darkness is most complete and the silence most profound. But the forest is never truly still. Somewhere, an owl hoots, a branch creaks in the wind, a stream babbles over stones. Life continues, quieter perhaps, but unceasing. The processes of the forest, respiration, decomposition, nutrient cycling, go on without pause. A beetle burrows into rotting wood. A fungus extends its hyphae. A mouse nibbles a seed. These small actions, repeated millions of times across the forest, constitute the baseline metabolism of the ecosystem, the slow burn of life that continues day and night, season after season, year after year. After midnight, the night begins its slow transition back toward day. The process is subtle at first, imperceptible except to the most sensitive observers. The stars shift in their positions, marking the passage of hours. The moon, if it is visible, tracks across the sky, changing the patterns of light and shadow in the forest. Some nocturnal animals begin to wind down their activities, heading back toward roosts or burrows, anticipating the coming dawn. Others remain active, taking advantage of the remaining darkness to complete their foraging or hunting. In the hours before dawn, a different kind of energy begins to build in the forest. Diurnal animals stir in their sleep, their internal clocks triggering physiological changes that prepare them for waking. Nocturnal animals make their last rounds, feeding with a kind of urgency now, knowing that daylight is approaching, and with it, the need to retreat to shelter. The forest is caught between night and day, between the ending of one cycle and the beginning of another. The first light of dawn is often preceded by sound. Birdsong begins while it is still dark, in what is called the dawn chorus. The earliest singers start in the pre-dawn darkness, their songs tentative at first, then growing stronger as more birds join in. The timing of the dawn chorus varies by species. Some birds sing very early, others wait until it is lighter. The result is a gradual crescendo of sound that builds through the pre-dawn and peaks at sunrise. This chorus is one of the most beautiful natural phenomena, a daily celebration of light's return, a ritual as old as birds themselves. The nocturnal animals, hearing the dawn chorus, know that their time is ending. Bats return to their roosts, squeezing into crevices or hanging from rafters, clustering together for warmth. Owls give their last calls and settle onto daytime perches, fluffing their feathers, preparing for sleep. Moths seek hiding places under bark or among leaves. Frogs cease calling and retreat into the water or burrow into mud. The shift change is happening again. The night shift giving way to the day shift, the nocturnal to the diurnal. As the sky lightens, the forest transforms. Colors begin to emerge from the grayscale of night. The greens of leaves become visible again, the browns of bark, the reds and yellows of flowers. Shadows shorten and sharpen. The world gains depth and detail as light reveals what darkness concealed. The transition is gradual but inevitable, driven by the rotation of the earth, a process that has repeated every day for billions of years and will continue for billions more. The rhythm of night and day is fundamental to life on Earth. Nearly all organisms have internal clocks, circadian rhythms, that synchronize their behavior to the 24-hour cycle of light and dark. These clocks are not learned but inherited, encoded in genes, fine-tuned by evolution to match the environment in which each species lives. The clock tells nocturnal animals when to wake and when to sleep, tells flowers when to open and when to close, tells the forest when to photosynthesize and when to respire. It is a biological metronome, keeping time at the cellular level, coordinating the complex machinery of life with the rhythms of the planet. The passage of the night is also marked by the moon. When it is visible, a full moon transforms the night forest, filling it with light, creating shadows almost as sharp as those cast by the sun. On a full moon night, the forest is not truly dark. You can see the shapes of trees, the outlines of paths, the gleam of water. Nocturnal animals respond to this extra light in various ways. Some, like owls, take advantage of it, hunting more actively because they can see better. Others, like small rodents that are prey for owls, may reduce their activity, staying hidden to avoid being spotted in the moonlight. The full moon creates a different kind of night, brighter and in some ways more dangerous for creatures that rely on darkness for protection. A new moon, by contrast, brings deep darkness. Without moonlight, only starlight illuminates the forest, and on cloudy nights, even that is blocked. The darkness is profound, nearly absolute. For humans, navigating a forest on a new moon night without artificial light is almost impossible. But for animals adapted to nocturnal life, the darkness is manageable, even preferable. They rely on senses other than sight, and the absence of moonlight may make them safer from predators. The new moon is a time of deep night, when the forest is at its darkest and most mysterious. Time in the night forest is cyclical, not linear. Each night is a repeat of the night before, yet also unique. The specific animals active, the weather, the temperature, the season, all vary, creating endless variation within the recurring pattern. But the underlying rhythm remains constant. Sunset, twilight, darkness, midnight, pre-dawn, sunrise. This rhythm is the heartbeat of the forest, the pulse that drives life, the metronome that all creatures follow. It is ancient and enduring, a pattern that has existed as long as the earth has rotated and the sun has risen and set. The night forest is part of this eternal cycle, a phase in the daily rhythm of life, a time when darkness reigns and a different cast of characters takes the stage. The night forest changes with the seasons, each season bringing different conditions, different challenges, different opportunities for the creatures that live there. In temperate regions, the differences between summer nights and winter nights are profound, affecting nearly every aspect of the forest's nocturnal life. Summer nights are warm and humid, full of life and activity. Insects are at their peak abundance and diversity, filling the air with their sounds and their flights. Bats gorge on the profusion of flying insects, fattening up for the lean times ahead. Frogs breed in ponds and streams, their choruses loud and insistent. Fireflies flash in the understory. The forest floor is alive with beetles and spiders and centipedes. The canopy rustles with moths and katydids. It is a time of plenty, when energy flows abundantly through the food web, when growth and reproduction are the primary activities. The warmth of summer nights also means that cold-blooded animals, Reptiles, amphibians, insects are more active than they would be in cooler seasons. Their metabolisms are temperature dependent, and the warm air allows them to move faster, hunt more effectively, digest food more quickly. The forest at night in summer is a symphony of activity. Every niche occupied, every resource exploited, life pressed into every available space. Autumn brings cooler nights and changes in behavior. Many insects are approaching the end of their life cycles, and their activity becomes more urgent, more focused on reproduction before the killing frosts arrive. Migratory birds that spend the summer in the forest begin to leave, flying south to warmer climates where food will remain available through the winter. Other birds arrive from farther north, stopping to rest and feed on their own migrations. The forest becomes a way station, a temporary home for travelers passing through. Leaves begin to fall in autumn, changing the structure of the forest. The canopy thins, allowing more light to penetrate during the day, and more of the night sky to be visible after dark. The forest floor accumulates a fresh layer of leaves, which will provide food for detritivores and habitat for invertebrates. The falling leaves also create sound, a soft rustling as they drift down, a crisp crackle when they land on other leaves. On a breezy autumn night, the sound of leaves falling and tumbling through the forest is constant, a reminder that the season is changing, that winter is approaching. Many animals prepare for winter during autumn nights. Squirrels cache nuts and acorns, burying them in the ground or hiding them in tree cavities, creating stores of food that they will retrieve during the lean winter months. Bears feed voraciously, consuming as many calories as possible to build up fat reserves for hibernation. Bats also fatten up, preparing for their winter dormancy or migration. The urgency is palpable. There is a limited time before winter arrives, and animals must be ready. Winter nights in temperate forests are cold and often silent. Many animals have entered hibernation or torpor, slowing their metabolisms to near zero levels, surviving on stored fat, waiting for spring. Bats cluster in caves or hollow trees, their body temperatures dropping to match the ambient temperature, their breathing and heart rates slowing dramatically. Chipmunks and ground squirrels hibernate in underground burrows, insulated by soil and snow. Frogs and turtles bury themselves in mud at the bottom of ponds, where the water does not freeze, entering a state of suspended animation. But not all animals hibernate. Some remain active through the winter, adapted to the cold and the scarcity of food. Owls continue to hunt, their thick plumage insulating them against the cold. Foxes and coyotes remain active, their winter coats providing warmth. Deer browse on twigs and bark, conserving energy, moving as little as possible to avoid wasting calories. Winter is a time of survival, when the forest's productivity is near zero, and animals must rely on stored resources or eke out a living from the meager food that remains available. The silence of winter nights is striking. With insects gone or dormant, the choruses of crickets and katydids are absent. Frogs do not call from frozen ponds. The forest is quiet except for the wind and the occasional call of an owl or the bark of a fox. Snow, when it falls, muffles sound further, absorbing noise, creating a hush that can be almost oppressive in its completeness. Walking through a snow-covered forest at night is to experience silence in a way that is rare in the modern world, a profound quiet that allows you to hear your own heartbeat, your own breathing. Yet even in winter, life persists. Under the snow, small mammals create tunnels and runways, moving through a subnivean space where temperatures are warmer than the air above. Voles and shrews remain active all winter, foraging under the snow, protected from the worst of the cold and from many predators. The snow itself acts as insulation, trapping heat radiating from the ground, creating a microclimate that can be 30 or 40 degrees warmer than the air above. This allows life to continue even in the depths of winter. Spring brings the return of warmth and life to the night forest. As temperatures rise, hibernating animals begin to wake. Bats emerge from torpor, hungry and thin, needing to feed immediately to rebuild their strength. Frogs thaw and emerge from their winter refuges, heading to ponds to breed. Insects hatch or emerge from dormancy, and the air begins to fill with their sounds again. Migratory birds return from the south, filling the forest with song, competing for territories, building nests. Spring nights are characterized by a sense of renewal and energy. The forest is waking up after the long sleep of winter, and there is a rush to take advantage of the lengthening days and increasing food availability. Plants begin to grow, flowers bloom, leaves unfold. The primary productivity of the forest ramps up, and with it, the populations of herbivores and their predators. The food web, which was simplified and slowed during winter, becomes complex and active again. The seasonal rhythm is as important as the daily rhythm in shaping the night forest. Each season brings different conditions, different opportunities, different challenges. Animals and plants have evolved to synchronize their life cycles with these seasons, timing reproduction, migration, dormancy, and growth to match the availability of resources and the constraints of the environment. The night forest in summer is a different place from the night forest in winter, yet both are part of the same system, connected by the species that persist through all seasons and by the cycling of nutrients and energy that continues year-round. Understanding the seasonal changes in the night forest deepens our appreciation of its complexity. The forest is not static but dynamic, constantly changing in response to the turning of the earth around the sun, to the tilt of the planet's axis, to the annual cycle of seasons that drives so much of life's rhythm. The night forest in any given season is a snapshot of an ongoing process, a moment in a cycle that is repeated for millions of years and will continue as long as forests exist. At night, the forest breathes. This is not a metaphor, but a description of a real process. During the day, plants take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen through photosynthesis. They also respire, taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. But the photosynthesis dominates during daylight hours, so the net effect is that the forest produces oxygen and consumes carbon dioxide. At night, photosynthesis stops because it requires light, but respiration continues. Plants, along with animals and decomposers, consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide. The balance shifts. The forest becomes a net consumer of oxygen and a net producer of carbon dioxide during the night hours. This breathing is invisible, silent, imperceptible to human senses, but it is happening constantly. Every leaf, every tree, every blade of grass, every fungus, every bacterium in the soil, all are respiring, all are consuming oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. The cumulative effect across the entire forest is significant. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the air near the forest floor can increase measurably during the night, rising by several parts per million, especially in calm conditions where there is little wind to mix the air. Conversely, the concentration of oxygen decreases slightly. The changes are small in absolute terms, but real and measurable. This nocturnal respiration is part of the global carbon cycle, the movement of carbon between the atmosphere, the biosphere, the oceans, and the Earth's crust. Forests play a crucial role in this cycle, storing carbon in wood and soil, exchanging carbon dioxide with the atmosphere through photosynthesis and respiration. The night hours, when respiration dominates, are a phase in this daily cycle, a time when carbon flows from the forest back into the atmosphere, balancing the daytime flow in the opposite direction. The breathing of the forest is also linked to the water cycle. Transpiration, the loss of water from plant leaves, occurs primarily during the day when stomata, the pores on leaf surfaces, are open to allow carbon dioxide in for photosynthesis. At night, many plants close their stomata to conserve water, reducing transpiration. This means that the forest floor and the air above it retain more moisture at night, contributing to the high humidity and dew formation characteristic of nocturnal forests. The reduced transpiration at night is another aspect of the forest's breathing, another cycle that runs parallel to the gas exchange of photosynthesis and respiration. Animals contribute to the forest's breath as well. Every animal respires, consuming oxygen and producing carbon dioxide. The collective respiration of all the animals in the forest, from insects to birds to mammals, adds to the carbon dioxide released at night. Animals also produce other gases, methane from the digestive systems of some herbivores, volatile organic compounds from the scent glands of many mammals. These gases, though present in small quantities, are part of the forest's atmospheric chemistry, part of the complex mixture of substances that fills the air. Decomposition, which occurs primarily through the action of fungi and bacteria, is another source of carbon dioxide at night. Decomposers break down dead plant and animal matter, releasing the carbon stored in organic molecules as carbon dioxide. This process happens continuously, day and night, but it is often faster in the warm, moist conditions that prevail at night. The forest floor, rich in decomposing leaves and wood, is a significant source of carbon dioxide, contributing to the nighttime increase in this gas. The breathing of the forest is part of a larger pattern of gas exchange that connects all ecosystems on Earth. Forests, grasslands, oceans, wetlands, all are sites of photosynthesis and respiration. All contribute to the cycling of gases between the biosphere and the atmosphere. The daily rhythm of photosynthesis during the day and respiration at night is a fundamental aspect of life on Earth, a pattern that has existed for billions of years since the first photosynthetic organisms evolved and began producing oxygen. This breathing is also a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life. The oxygen that animals breathe is produced by plants. The carbon dioxide that plants use for photosynthesis is produced by animals and decomposers. The forest is not a collection of independent organisms, but a community, a system where each component depends on others, where the waste product of one process is the raw material for another. The night, when photosynthesis ceases and respiration dominates, is a time when this interdependence is particularly evident. The forest is consuming the oxygen that it produced during the day, preparing to produce more oxygen when the sun rises again. There's something deeply calming about contemplating the forest breath. It is a slow rhythm, a gentle cycle, a pattern that continues regardless of human activity, regardless of the dramas and urgencies of human life. The forest breathes in and out, day and night, season after season, year after year. It has breathed this way for millennia, and it will continue for millennia more if we allow it. The breath is a symbol of life, of persistence, of the ongoing processes that sustain the biosphere. At night, when the forest breathes out, releasing the carbon dioxide accumulated from respiration, it is part of a cycle as natural and necessary as the rising and setting of the sun. Listening to the forest at night, you are listening to life itself. The rustle of leaves is the forest moving, adjusting to the wind. The sound of water is the forest's circulatory system, moving nutrients and energy. The calls of animals are the forest communicating, coordinating, reproducing. And underlying all of this, silent and invisible, is the breath. The exchange of gases, the flow of oxygen and carbon dioxide, the metabolism of the forest operating continuously, sustaining the web of life that makes the forest what it is. The night forest is alive in every sense, breathing, growing, changing, a living entity made up of countless individual lives but functioning as a whole, a superorganism whose breath is part of the breath of the earth itself. Humans have always had a complex relationship with the night forest. For most of our history as a species, the night was a time of danger, when predators hunted and when navigation was difficult. Our ancestors gathered around fires at night, seeking the protection of light and the comfort of community. The darkness beyond the firelight was unknown and threatening, filled with sounds and movements that could not be identified. This ancient fear of the dark, of the forest at night, is still with us in some form, encoded perhaps in our genes, manifesting as unease when we find ourselves alone in darkness. Yet humans have also been drawn to the night forest, curious about what happens there, aware that it holds secrets and wonders not visible during the day. Indigenous peoples around the world developed deep knowledge of the night forest, learning the habits of nocturnal animals, the paths of the moon and stars, the sounds and signs that indicate weather or the presence of animals. This knowledge was practical, essential for survival, but it was also spiritual, connecting people to the rhythms of nature, to the cycles of day and night, to the life of the forest in all its phases. In modern times, most humans have lost this connection. We live in artificially lit environments where night is pushed back, where darkness is rare and often seen as inconvenient or even dangerous. We have little need to know the night forest, little opportunity to experience it. Our lives are scheduled by clocks, not by the sun and moon, and we can be active at any hour thanks to electric light, the natural rhythm of day and night, which governed human behavior for all of history until very recently, has been disrupted. But there is a growing recognition that this disconnection has costs. We lose something when we lose contact with natural darkness, with the night sky, with the nocturnal world. Studies have shown that artificial light at night disrupts wildlife, confusing migratory birds, disorienting sea turtle hatchlings, interfering with the breeding of frogs and insects. It also disrupts human biology, affecting our sleep, our circadian rhythms, our health. There is a movement now to reduce light pollution, to preserve dark skies, to restore some of the natural darkness that has been lost. Experiencing the night forest can be a powerful antidote to the artificiality of modern life. To walk in a forest at night without a flashlight, allowing your eyes to adjust to the darkness, is to enter a different world. It is disorienting at first, even frightening. The familiar landscape of daytime becomes strange and mysterious. Shapes are ambiguous. Distances are hard to judge. Sounds seem louder and more significant. But if you stay, if you sit quietly and let your senses adjust, the fear often gives way to wonder. You begin to notice things, the pattern of stars through the canopy, the sound of an owl, the rustle of a small animal in the leaves. You become aware of the life that surrounds you, active in the darkness, going about its business indifferent to your presence. This experience can be humbling. In the night forest, you are not the dominant species, not in control. You are a visitor, a guest, experiencing a world that exists on its own terms. The forest does not need you. It was here long before you arrived and will be here long after you leave. At night, this truth is more apparent than during the day, when human senses are better suited to the environment and we feel more confident, more capable. At night, we are reminded of our limitations, our dependence on light, our vulnerability. But we are also reminded of our connection to this world, our place within the web of life that includes the owl and the mouse, the tree and the fungus, the stream and the frog. For some people, spending time in the night forest is a spiritual experience, a way to connect with something larger than themselves, whether they call it nature or the universe or the divine. The darkness and the quiet create a space for reflection, for contemplation, for a kind of peace that is difficult to find in the noise and brightness of modern life. The rhythms of the night forest, the rising of the moon, the calls of nocturnal animals, the slow passage of stars across the sky, provide a sense of continuity, a reminder that these rhythms have persisted for eons and will continue regardless of human concerns. There is also a conservation dimension to understanding and appreciating the night forest. Forests are under pressure worldwide, from deforestation, fragmentation, climate change, pollution. Protecting forests requires that people value them, that they see forests not just as resources to be exploited, but as living systems worthy of preservation. Experiencing the night forest can foster this appreciation. When you have sat in the darkness and listened to the chorus of frogs, when you have watched a bat hunt through the canopy, when you have felt the cool air of the forest floor and smelled the rich scent of damp earth, the forest becomes more than an abstraction. It becomes a place you care about, a place you want to protect. The night forest also teaches patience and attentiveness. It rewards those who are willing to sit still, to watch and listen, to wait for things to reveal themselves. In our fast-paced, overstimulated world, this kind of patience is rare and valuable. The night forest forces you to slow down, to let go of the need for constant activity or entertainment, to simply be present. This can be difficult at first, especially for people accustomed to the pace of modern life. But with practice, it becomes easier, even pleasurable. The stillness of the night forest is not emptiness, but fullness, full of life, full of sound, full of subtle beauties that only reveal themselves to those who take the time to notice. Children, in particular, can benefit from experiencing the night forest, though it must be done carefully and safely. For many children, nature is something experienced primarily during the day, in controlled settings like parks or backyards. The night forest is wilder, more mysterious, and it can spark a sense of wonder and curiosity that stays with a child for life. Learning that the forest is alive at night, that there are animals active in the darkness, that the world continues when we are asleep. These are profound realizations that can shape a child's understanding of nature and their place within it. Of course, experiencing the night forest requires access to forests and to darkness, both of which are becoming rarer. Urbanization has reduced forest area in many regions, and light pollution has brightened the night sky over much of the planet. For many people, a truly dark night is something they have never experienced, and a forest at night is inaccessible. This makes the preservation of dark skies and wild places even more important. Everyone should have the opportunity to experience the night forest, to see the stars, to hear the sounds of nocturnal life, to feel the connection to nature that comes from being in a wild place after dark. The night forest is a gift, a window into a world that exists parallel to our own, a reminder that life on Earth is diverse and wonderful and largely indifferent to human activity. It is a place of beauty and danger, of mystery and revelation, of ancient rhythms and ongoing processes. It is a place where we can find peace or excitement or simply a different perspective on our lives. The night forest asks nothing of us except that we pay attention, that we respect its wildness, that we allow it to exist on its terms. In return, it offers us an experience that is increasingly rare in the modern world, an encounter with nature in its most unfiltered form, a chance to see and hear and feel the living earth in the quiet hours of darkness. The night forest is timeless in a way that transcends individual nights or seasons. It is a pattern that has repeated since forests first evolved, hundreds of millions of years ago. Long before humans existed, before mammals, before dinosaurs, there were forests, and those ancient forests experienced night just as modern forests do. The sun set then as it does now. Darkness fell. Nocturnal animals emerged. The cycle continued night after night, millennium after millennium, shaping the evolution of life in ways that are still evident today. Consider that many of the adaptations we see in nocturnal animals, the large eyes of owls, the echolocation of bats, the sensitive antennae of moths, the bioluminescence of fireflies, evolved over millions of years in response to the challenges and opportunities of the night. The night created evolutionary pressure, and life responded, diversifying into countless forms adapted to life in darkness. The night forest is not just a physical place, but an evolutionary arena, a driver of biodiversity, a shaper of life's forms and behaviors. The trees themselves are ancient in lineage, if not in individual age. The basic structure of trees, trunk, branches, leaves, evolved long ago and has persisted because it works, because it is an effective way to capture sunlight and compete with other plants. At night, when photosynthesis stops, trees are in a sense dormant, waiting for the sun to return. But they are not inactive. Respiration continues. Growth, in some species, happens primarily at night when water stress is lower. Hormones regulate development, preparing the tree for the next day's photosynthesis. The tree's life does not pause at night. It simply shifts into a different mode, a different phase of its daily cycle. The soil beneath the trees is even older in some sense. Soil forms slowly, over centuries or millennia, as rock weathers and organic matter accumulates. The soil in an old forest may contain particles that have been there for thousands of years, along with fresh organic matter from recently fallen leaves. At night, the soil continues its slow transformation, its particles being rearranged by burrowing animals, its chemistry altered by fungi and bacteria, its nutrients being cycled through the food web. The soil is the foundation of the forest, the medium in which trees grow, the repository of nutrients, the habitat for countless organisms. It is ancient and patient, changing slowly, persisting through countless nights. The streams that flow through the forest are part of a hydrological cycle that has operated for billions of years. Water evaporates from oceans, forms clouds, falls as rain, flows through forests and back to the sea. The individual water molecules in a forest stream have likely been through this cycle countless times, have fallen as rain on ancient forests, have flowed through rivers that no longer exist, have been part of glaciers and oceans and clouds. At night, the stream continues its flow, indifferent to darkness, carrying water and nutrients, eroding banks, depositing sediment, providing habitat for aquatic life. The stream is both ephemeral, its exact path and flow change over time, and eternal, part of a cycle that has no beginning or end. The night sky above the forest is a window into deep time. The stars we see are so distant that their light has traveled for years or centuries to reach us. When you look at a star from a forest clearing at night, you are seeing that star as it was in the past, perhaps 4 years ago for the nearest stars, perhaps thousands of years ago for the most distant visible stars. The light from those stars has traveled across the galaxy, across the void of space, to arrive at this moment, to strike your eye, to convey information about distant suns. The stars are ancient, most of them billions of years old, burning through their nuclear fuel at rates determined by their mass and composition. The universe itself is ancient, about 14 billion years old, and the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. Forests have existed for perhaps 400 million years, a substantial fraction of the time since complex life emerged on land. For all of that time, the cycle of day and night has continued, driven by the Earth's rotation. The night forest is part of this ancient pattern, a phase in a cycle that predates humanity by hundreds of millions of years and will continue long after we are gone. This perspective, the deep time perspective, can be both humbling and comforting. Humbling because it reminds us how brief our individual lives are, how recent our species is, how small our impact has been on geological timescales. Comforting because it reminds us that the patterns of nature are enduring, that the cycle of day and night will continue, that forests will persist in some form, that life is resilient and adaptable. The night forest has survived mass extinctions, ice ages, continental drift, climate changes far more severe than anything currently happening. It has adapted, evolved, persisted. There is reason to hope that it will continue to do so if we give it the chance. But the night forest is also vulnerable. Human activity is changing the planet rapidly, faster than at any time in recent geological history. Climate change is altering temperature and precipitation patterns, affecting the distribution of species, changing the timing of seasonal events. Deforestation is reducing forest area, fragmenting habitats, driving species extinct. Light pollution is brightening the night, disrupting nocturnal ecosystems. These changes are happening on human timescales, decades, not millennia, and they threaten the night forest in ways that natural processes do not. Preserving the night forest requires action. It requires protecting existing forests from logging and conversion. It requires reducing light pollution so that darkness can return. It requires mitigating climate change to prevent the most severe impacts on forest ecosystems. It requires recognizing the value of nature, not just for the resources it provides, but for its intrinsic worth, for the life it supports, for the beauty and wonder it offers. The night forest cannot speak for itself, cannot advocate for its own preservation. That task falls to us, to those who understand and value it, who have experienced its beauty and its mystery, who want it to persist for future generations. There is urgency to this task, but also hope. Conservation efforts around the world are protecting forests, restoring degraded lands, creating wildlife corridors, reducing human impact. Dark sky preserves are being established to protect areas from light pollution. People are rediscovering the value of nature, the importance of wildness, the need for spaces where natural processes can unfold without human interference. The night forest, resilient and ancient, can recover if given the opportunity, can persist if we choose to protect it. The eternal night is not truly eternal, of course. Nothing lasts forever. Eventually, billions of years from now, the sun will expand and die, and the earth with it. All forests will end, all nights will cease. But that is so far in the future as to be almost meaningless on human timescales. For now, for the foreseeable future, the night will come, the forest will breathe, the cycle will continue. Our task is simply to ensure that the night forest persists through our lifetimes and into the future, so that others can experience what we have experienced, can find in the darkness and the quiet what we have found, a connection to nature, a sense of peace, a window into the ancient and ongoing processes that make life on Earth possible. As the night progresses and dawn approaches, the forest begins its return to the rhythms of day. The transformation is slow but inevitable. The stars fade as the sky brightens. The moon sets, if it was visible. The temperature begins to rise, though this is often imperceptible in the pre-dawn darkness. The first birds begin to sing, their voices tentative at first, then growing in confidence and volume as more join the chorus. The night is ending, the day beginning, and the forest shifts once more between its two modes of existence. For the nocturnal animals, this is the signal to retreat. Bats return to their roosts, exhausted from a night of hunting, their bellies full or empty depending on the success of their foraging. They cluster together, hanging upside down, conserving heat, entering the torpor that will carry them through the day. Owls settle onto branches, their eyes closing, their heads tucking down, becoming almost invisible among the leaves. Foxes trot back to their dens, mice scurry into burrows, moths hide under bark. The night shift is ending, the workers clocking out, seeking rest after their labors in the darkness. The diurnal animals are waking. Birds shake their feathers, stretch their wings, begin to move through the branches. Squirrels emerge from their drays, ready to resume their endless search for food. Deer lift their heads from their beds, alert and cautious, testing the air for danger before moving. The day shift is beginning, ready to take over, to fill the forest with sound and motion, to resume the activities that were paused at sunset. The transition is not instantaneous, but it is relatively brief. Within an hour or two of sunrise, the forest has fully shifted from night mode to day mode. The soundscape is completely different. Birdsong instead of insect choruses, the rustle of daytime activity instead of the quiet stirrings of night. The light changes everything, revealing details that were hidden in darkness, creating the sharp shadows and bright highlights that define the daytime forest. Colors return, vivid and saturated, replacing the monochrome of night vision. But the night is not gone, only waiting. In 12 hours or so, the sun will set again, twilight will descend, and the cycle will repeat. The forest will transform once more, the diurnal animals settling down, the nocturnal animals emerging, the soundscape shifting, the darkness returning. This has happened every day for as long as the forest has existed, and it will happen every day for as long as the forest persists. The rhythm is reliable, predictable, comforting in its constancy. For those who have spent time in the night forest, who have experienced its quiet beauty and its hidden life, the return of day can be bittersweet. The magic of the night is ending, replaced by the more familiar world of daylight. But the experience remains, a memory and a knowledge that the forest is more than what we see during the day, that it has a secret life that unfolds in darkness, that it is alive in ways we often do not consider. This knowledge can change how we see forests, how we value them, how we understand our relationship with the natural world. The night forest teaches us that we are not the center of the universe, that the world does not revolve around human activity and human schedules. Life continues when we are not watching, when we are asleep, when we are absent. The forest does not need us to exist, does not depend on our presence. It has its own rhythms, its own purposes, its own ongoing dramas that have nothing to do with humanity. This can be humbling, but it can also be liberating. We do not have to control everything, do not have to understand everything, do not have to be present for everything. The forest takes care of itself, as it has for millions of years. At the same time, the night forest reminds us that we are connected to nature, that we are part of the same web of life that includes the owl and the mouse, the tree and the fungus. We breathe the same air, drink the same water, depend on the same ecological processes. Our health and well-being are linked to the health of forests and other ecosystems. When forests suffer, we suffer. When they thrive, we benefit. This connection is easy to forget in modern life, where we are insulated from nature, where our food comes from stores and our water from taps. But the connection remains, and the night forest, in its wildness and its beauty, can help us remember. As dawn breaks and the forest returns to day, there is a sense of completion, of the cycle fulfilled. The night has passed, the darkness has given way to light, the nocturnal animals have retreated, and the diurnal animals have emerged. The forest continues, as it always has, as it always will, through night and day, through season and season, through year and year. It is a constant presence, a living system, a community of organisms all connected, all dependent on each other, all part of the intricate web of life that makes a forest what it is. And so, the night forest, having revealed some of its secrets, having shared some of its beauty, returns to silence. Not the silence of absence or emptiness, but the silence of rest, of waiting, of preparation for the next night. The forest is patient. It knows that darkness will come again, that the cycle will continue, that the nocturnal animals will emerge once more to hunt and forage and go about their business in the darkness. The night forest is always there, even during the day, waiting beneath the surface, ready to awaken when the sun sets and the first stars appear. For now, let the forest rest. Let the day take over with its brightness and its warmth and its different kind of life. Let the nocturnal animals sleep, recovering their strength, preparing for the next night. And let us carry with us the memory of the night forest, its quiet beauty, its hidden life, its reminder that the world is larger and more wonderful than we often realize. The night forest will be there when we need it, when we seek its peace and its mystery, when we want to step out of the rush of modern life and into the ancient rhythms of nature. It will be there, breathing quietly in the darkness, alive and patient and eternal. Thank you for resting with Sleepy Facts. If your eyes are still open, let them grow heavy. If your thoughts are still moving, let them slow down. Sleep deeply, rest fully, and return anytime you need calm.